I would love for you to be able to explain to the audience just what is the common sense approach to nutrition from your perspective.
Yeah, I want to answer your David Goggins questions first.
Please.
David Goggins is committed to that level of discipline and intensity in a specific domain for the rest of his life. And I stepped into that domain in a way that I once thought was impossible for myself, and did not live that to the fullest the way that I desired to because of the surgery. And that sucked. But what I learned was David Goggins, his legacy, his dharma is intensity, discipline over everything. What I really desire to leave into this world is that, man, I live an intense fucking lifestyle. I'm dialed the fuck in. My entire minute of every single day is scheduled. The only thing that I am not disciplined in all the time, the only thing in my life that I'm not intense about is nutrition and exercise. That's it. Every other thing, coaching, I'm all the fucking business. I'm all the fucking my brothers. I'm all fucking ride or die, man. I don't have any friends. I only have brothers. All or nothing, intensity, but not with nutrition. And what the common sense approach is it teaches people this concept of we want to dissociate all of the things that lead to unsustainable results from food. So when we think about I want to lose weight, so I'm going to count all my calories. What are you going to do after you lose weight? Are you going to keep counting all your calories, or are you going to actually learn how many calories are in the different foods and then practice eating without counting, right? I'm going to weigh myself every day on my weight loss journey. That fucks with your mind because you don't lose weight every day. You can't measure fat day to day. Are you going to commit to weighing yourself? So we really go through like every single unsustainable thing on this common sense approach, and we find balance in everything. How regularly do you think you should be eating healthy foods? I don't know, 80% of the time. Great. Let's start there. What are some of the foods that you eat the most often? Typically it's bullshit. Okay. We're going to stop eating bullshit all the time. Let's come up with 5 or 10 meals. This is the number one thing. If anyone listening to this is really struggling with obesity right now, you're eating the same 5 to 10 things on repeat all the time. At home or even eating out, you have go-to places. Instead of reinventing the wheel and getting on some diet, let's just build 5 or 10 meals that you actually like that are made of mostly whole, natural, single ingredient or trigger alert real foods, right? And that you can cook in less than 10 minutes. And then set yourself up for success. Less than 10 minutes, I don't dread cooking. I like the taste. I never get flavor fatigue or diet fatigue. I don't hate my diet. Everything's high in protein, already measured, already dialed to fit inside of your macros. If you do 30 minutes of work up front, you can set yourself up for a lifetime of successful, healthy relationship with food and healthy eating. But people don't do the 30 minutes of work up front. They'd rather just count all their calories every meal every day. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the common sense approach, is control your environment by spending 1 hour with me and making that your reality, and then standardizing on meals the way that you already unintentionally are. It's just the meals you're standardized on are bullshit. And then you take that and you practice positive self-talk, how you're speaking to yourself in the mirror, video journaling how you're feeling and what you're doing. And it's just like common sense. We're just practicing mindfulness. It's just, can you breathe and connect with how are you going to feel after you do something? Like, how are you going to feel after you eat a piece of cake? You're going to feel fine. How are you going to feel after you eat 2 pieces of cake? You're going to feel like shit. If you just pause and breathe, you'll realize that your body actually already knows the answers to what's good for you and what isn't. So we're bringing mindful practice into eating. You know, the reason why people are so fat is because people don't pray over food anymore, and they don't eat with their families. So whether you believe in God as Jesus' father, or God as divine spirit, or you're atheist, it's like, it doesn't really matter. You really benefit from just pausing and breathing before you put something into your body, because you're never going to pause and breathe your ass into a whole bag of Doritos. There's not, you know, and how common sense.
Totally. That's such a legendary comment. Like, I just think the practice of slowing down for a lot of people could pull them out of those short feedback loops of just kind of like the food addict's mind. I'm curious, do you think that food addiction is actually a real thing? Very rare.
Extremely overdiagnosed. Yeah, maybe one person that I've ever coached would I say had a real food addiction.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very, very rare.
What's the difference in kind of these people who are being diagnosed as food addicts but actually aren't?
a lot of it comes down to, do you benefit from believing in your own food addiction? So let's say that I'm wrong and that every single diagnosis, everyone that ever said they were a food addict, they were. And all the diagnoses were right. If you're a food addict, do you benefit from even believing that you're a food addict? Or would you benefit more from saying, actually, food addiction isn't real? What are the things in my life that I'm using food to cope from? If I address the root of the issue, you'll find that you probably don't actually have that much of a food issue. You probably just have more of a life issue than anything.
That's actually a really interesting point, because food is extremely hyper palatable, but there are times where I've eaten a lot of processed food and then internally made the decision to stop doing it, and then was able to immediately the next day shift to whole, unprocessed, single ingredient real foods, or something like, nicotine pouches or caffeine.
It's different.
It's very different. That's a really important point.
And this is what people take, the alcoholics approach to food, or the cigarettes approach to food, which is cold turkey cut it. And they'll go, well, I'm going to lose weight by cold turkey cutting processed foods entirely. But you create a negative relationship with something that you're avoiding most of the time. Food isn't like alcohol because you have to eat every day. Food isn't like cigarettes because you have to eat every day. It's not I'm just going to quit, right? So I struggle because I eat McDonald's every day, and my kids like pizza. So we get Pizza Hut delivered 3 times a week. It's like, let's practice getting Pizza Hut delivered 1 time per week instead. Like, you can find balance. This is not alcohol. You can find balance with this. You can do this 1 day a week. And you can sit with the discomfort of wanting more after you eat a normal portion size. And you can do that every time with intentionality for 1 month. You can order pizza and intentionally eat 2 pieces and then sit with it. People get so mad. People get so mad at me online, the people that come from like the really negative relationship with food space, the binging space, the bulimia space. This triggers the fuck out of people. But this is actually what it takes to overhaul your relationship with food. It takes sitting down with intentionality for a month and having a plan and putting yourself in the situations intentionally where you typically would fuck up and overeat a ginormous amount of food, and practice not doing it. And then video yourself saying, I'm feeling like doing this, and I'm going to practice not doing it to prove to myself that I have control over what I put into my body. That's how you conquer what people call food addiction. It's not to just avoid the alcohol. It's to jump into the bar and sit there and gargle with booze, because in this case, you have to eat to live.
So you're saying that when you have a client that wants to have that insane binge, you're having them videotape it and talk through their feelings out loud.
Yeah, you have to.
That's amazing. That's actually, it's funny. I'm rereading Atomic Habits, and I think my initial thought process was like, oh, this is just like a cliche book. I read it 5 years ago. I already know a lot of the things that are in there. And then I had a good buddy that was working with me over, because I just quit nicotine pouches 26 days ago, struggled with it bad. He was like, you should reread Atomic Habits. It's been on the bestsellers list for 260 weeks for a reason. And one of the things that he talks about is coaching yourself to call out the bad behavior, whether it's eating the wrong cheat meal, or about to scroll on social media or watch porn or whatever that thing is for you. I forget what the strategy is called, but the Japanese train system, it's the most efficient train system in the world, and all of their conductors are talking out loud the mistakes that are about to happen. And then the New York subway system started doing the same thing, and their incidence of accidents went down by like 90%.
I love that.
So like when you're about to have that meal, literally saying, if I eat this meal, it's going to set up myself, my future, my future family from becoming the version of me that I want to become, or whatever it is. So I love that you're encouraging clients to do that.
And it's that in combination with this concept. There's 10 rules to this diet that I built. It's called the Common Sense Diet. Rule number 9 is eat mom's apple pie when she makes it. So what I mean by that is I really disagree with the concept of cheat meals in general. What eat mom's apple pie means is eat celebratory foods celebratorily. Like, food is connection and culture and memory. And in a situation where you go home for Christmas and your mom makes apple pie and I can't eat it because I'm not eating carbs, Mom, sorry. It's like, that's kind of a problem, and that is a little bit of you potentially being a slave to what you've optimized for. And what I want people to understand, and like my real impact that I want to have, is that there is a world where you can eat 1 piece of pie and it's fine. Most people either don't eat the pie, or they'll eat 3 or 4 pieces and then bring a pie home and throw it in the fridge and eat a piece every day till it's gone. It's like, you can just have 1 piece of pie and sit with that, slow the fuck down and enjoy it the way it was meant to be enjoyed. Like, make love, to that pie, you know? Like people just miss that whole thing. They don't. Food is one of the best things on this planet.
That's such a good rule.
It's really, it feels like it's mostly coming from U.S. culture, this diet culture around like I lived in Italy for a little bit, and if you even thought about the idea of not eating Nani's dessert that she made, like if you thought about not eating that, like you would be kicked out of the family. And it's like, you know, in the U.S. it's become very common for us to kind of just have these rules. Diet culture is so pervasive at this point that it's almost commonplace to start having like these restrictive mindsets when food is the connection, as you're saying.
When there's still, man, there's just this reality that people don't like to talk about. The people that lose weight in restriction, this does not take into account people that have specific medical issues that they're on very specific diets for. So those people set aside. The people that go into restriction for the sake of permanent weight loss always have this war in their mind where they're uncomfortable in the situation. It's like when you lose weight by, I'm going to cut out booze on my weight loss journey. It's like, yeah, man, but like on my birthday, you're going to come out and have a glass of wine. You can't do it. You can't do it, right? And it just gets to the point where like you're always thinking about food. Where I really operate is in what I call the food noise space. Are you guys familiar with food noise?
No.
Food noise is this concept of constantly thinking about, anyone overweight listening to this will feel this. It's constantly thinking about, I should lose weight. I'm on a diet. I'm off a diet. What am I going to do to lose weight? Great. I lost 2 pounds. I feel great. God, I gained 0.4 pounds. I feel like shit. I'm going to undereat to make up for it. And then you're just in this cycle forever. That's the reality for so many people that are fat. The way to work through the food noise is not to restrict yourself, because even if you restrict yourself to your weight loss goal, the food noise will never go away. You'll always be thinking about the thing that you're not allowing yourself. You'll always feel like you're restrictive, and you'll always have this fear of potentially gaining the weight back because you've never built comfort around the thing that you're avoiding.
Interesting. So it sounds like there's just this underlying degree of mental friction that people have to just chisel away at and chip away at. I guess my question to you is, I would just imagine, you know, if you're, 275 or 310 pounds and you're listening to this podcast, it's just like, how do you just get that like initial gust of wind to get started when you literally have zero dopamine?
Yeah.
Which I know is such a loaded question, and it's probably so case dependent, but that's probably the bit, like, how do you just crack that code in the beginning when you're just in like, you're like a pile of rubble essentially?
Yeah, people say that you can't make someone want to do something, or you can't make someone want to lose weight. I disagree wholeheartedly. When you're really speaking to somebody that's obese, I visualize I'm talking to my old self, and I go, look, I know you've tried this a bunch of different times. Realistically, if things keep going the way that they are, what's going to happen in 10 years? Like, oh, I'm not going to feel good. And like, close your eyes, like take a breath, really walk them through. Where are you going to be living? Are you going to be walking up a staircase? Are you going to have kids? If you don't have any kids now, is it possible that you won't be able to have kids due to your own obesity? Is it possible you'll be diabetic or pre-diabetic? And you start really walking them through all the possibilities, and they go, fuck, I never really sat, never let myself really sit in what might happen, right? Okay. And it creates fear. There's something that we're going to run away from. This is Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. Paint very clear what you're running away from. Okay. That's a great place to start. And that's where I started. I didn't know what I was running towards, only what I'm running away from. But as you start running away, you can start connecting with what you're running towards. But it's really hard to see what you're running towards when you're just obsessed with feeling like you should be doing something. The most interesting part of weight loss is that when you lose weight and actually put it behind you, not when you lose weight and live in fear or restriction, but when you work through balance and develop an actual healthy relationship with food and yourself, you just have so much mental space.
Yes.
It's like, well, now, fuck. People go, I don't know who are you going to be if you're not fat? People don't even know. What are you going to think about day to day? How's dinner with your wife going to be if you're not like thinking about, this is a cheat meal. Oh, I should be eating less. How many calories are in this? How different would that connection be? How different would sex with your woman be? How different would your presence in the room be if you felt good about your own body? Would your kids respond better to you if you sat a little straighter and looked them in the eyes and meant what you said? It's like, yeah, they fucking would. People don't want to think about it though, right? And you paint that really clear picture of what's actually possible for you. You go, great, the way we're going to do that is by living that one right now. When you just make it stupidly clear, write it down, video yourself, speak it, listen to yourself say it.